Yeah, but those who know the Raghavamir, I think they are quite sure that we won't find any mistake in his work. A very perfectionist and
no. You can certainly find mistakes. It will be interesting, but that's not important. It's important. What is important now is just to see how I have proceeded, and you see some tiny details. But do try first of all to read the manuscript, not the transcript. It's of course very easy to use the transcript now, but actually try to read this nice Nepali hand, which is very, very beautiful.
Yes.
So I would just suggest I think we have a colleague who is experienced in Nepali handwriting, so my suggestion would be to start with you.
Om Namah Sarvajnaya. Praparapasamanva Samanva Vinirdu.
What's this once again?
Samanva.
Vini.
Vani.
Dhu.
It's
Vinirdu.
Yeah.
That's a common mistake in Nepali manuscripts, and people and Nepali scribes have also been confusing Cha and Va. So you just made the same mistake. Well, the Cha is usually it's a straight line. I mean, it's a tiny difference. You have to be very careful, especially in conjuncts like Via. What was this? Nga with the Holland.
yeah, it's nga.
Okay, now you see, if I had asked you, please prepare now a new copy of this manuscript. You experienced in Nepali manuscript, so please be so kind, prepare a Nagari copy. Then you're writing this, copying this, and then you write there Vyardunya. Yeah? And then we have a manuscript, a new Nagari copy, prepared in 2017 with Vyarduni. Yeah? And then I would have to think, okay, what was his copy actually? What is the actual which is similar to do, but because from the context, I wouldn't expect do. This is nonsense. I would expect something else. And then I would think, aha, this guy just misread one nga with the Holland. And this way we can reconstruct what we have in an earlier copy. So this was the procedure which I showed you the day before yesterday in the Saindevi, in the Old Bengali manuscript, which has misread certain peculiar Saindevi aksharas. So in the same case, we have now a very fine modern example of do for nga with a Holland.
This one. Well, it's not confusing.
But that's not sure. Dhayo.
Well, I didn't hear this one. This? Duh. Yeah. Now this could be a kind of a Bengali pa, but it is not, of course. It's duh.
It's not sure because the sh should have a line at the top.
Yeah.
Ishyati.
Sudha?
Bhayascha.
Yeah.
Prati. Sure. Pratinasahas. Sahas. Sahas.
No. What's this? Well, this is not tabya. This is vya, not bya. Vya, yeah. I mean, we have to take care because we're now preparing a transcript. So if it is vya, and we have a script which does not differentiate between b and v, yeah. So they always write a circle for v or b. It doesn't matter. But in this script, it is always one single akshara for this. We do have some scripts like the Saindavi script in which we have two separate characters for b, like in Buddha, and for v, as in Sarva, which is Sarva in Saindavi. So, but in this case, we don't have. So we have now to stick to it and say, okay, this is, of course, the vya. And we do expect the vya anyway. Yeah, yeah. In any case, no matter how we pronounce it today, no matter what our practice is, we just stick now to what is written. Nothing else. We don't need to think. We just need to reproduce. Well, if I write at the transcript, then of course I decide for one of the two akshars, and usually it's v. So we just write v. Also, imagine you have somewhere, we'll probably have such a case later here, but if you have such a word where you would actually expect b, like in Buddha, but the manuscript writes v, so in my transcript I will write v, so it will be Buddha. In the transcript, in the diplomatic transcript, not in the edition, I mean the transcript. Yeah? So we just stick to what we have in the manuscript. We do not interpret. We do not standardize this. No. Yes, yes. It's a kind of a digital copy. That's the objective of this preparatory work. Nothing else. Where's your? Tavya. Yeah. Upayor pi. Parupayor api.
Matra.
Pra danda. Para danda. Sama. No, once again, this one. Yes, we have Holland. Yeah. Danda. Danda. Okay. Now this is the end of the line. And you see in my transcript, it's also the end of the line. Yeah? So now I go to the next line. So did you follow here? Did you check the script, the transcript? Or you were just looking now the Sanskrit text up there? So you missed 100 rupees too? Let's do it this way. Half of the group reads the Sanskrit text, and the other half tries to get mistakes in my transcript. And perhaps you may get a reward in your next life. Okay, now second line. I have indicated the first line, the second line, and so on. Yeah. Now this is not in the manuscript. We don't have these numbers. That's why I typeset them in bold script, in boldface. This is of course not here to be seen. So it's just for help. Okay. Nir danda. Dur danda. What's this? Ang. So not adu. Yeah? It's not laddu or adu, no. It's ang. Okay. What? Api. Well, this is not per. You see the next one. Now we have here a nice case. Now, if you pay attention, actually you cannot confuse these two aksharas. The does not have a horizontal covering line, whereas the per has. Yeah. In a Bengali hand, where we have a more angular per in the later Bengali types, then this could be per, theoretically. But we don't have a Bengali hand here. We have actually a Nevari hand. So it is Adi. Yeah.
Adi, Danda, Tu.
No, okay, ma, sa, or ma. Yeah. What? No. Look, it's always. They could look a bit similar, but if you look properly, actually, quite often you'll see the difference. Let's have a look here. We have here sa, ma. You see the difference between sa and ma? I mean, you have this tiny stroke here. If the stroke is not visible for whatever reason, then of course you may confuse the two.
Yeah, I have a very, and that generally I found that in the Nakshatra scripts, that when there is a matra underneath, then they don't put the stroke. Generally, two manuscripts are.
Yeah. Might be, but then as far as I remember, you see, it's not only the stroke, it's also the outline of this part the left side. It is more angular. In the case of ma, it is round. You have to imagine how they write it. They begin at the top, and then they make the curve, and then they make the ma. As we are doing it today, basically. Whereas in the sa, it is like this, so we have an angle. And usually, if the scribe is good enough, then you can also notice this angular element in the sa. It's not very clear to be seen, but usually you can spot the difference. Yeah, I understand, but still this angular element will remain, so because they do not make the curve. In any case, here there is no ambiguity. You can be absolutely sure that this is su. You see, that's a good. You see, it's angular. You see the sharp angles here. Tack, tack. It's quite clear. It's not ma. Okay, and then u. Okay, now have a look in the transcript. I have here one. What's this? Yes, I'm indicating in this way that we have here the binding hole. Okay. Yes.
Abhi, danda, prati, danda, pari, danda, upa. Yeah, so upa.
Double danda.
Ete. विंशति प्रादयः एते विंशति प्रादयः क्रिया
विशेषा न nta visheshantara nta
Where?
Here, you see the t. If it is t like here, we have here t. Yeah, it is this horizontal or slightly curved line. In the AT, it is wavy line. Now, this is with in the case of Vishesha, it is with Prishtamatra. This stroke here is the Prishtamatra. No. It depends on the main outline of the main character. So with different characters, we have different ways of indicating the A. So in the case of Sh, we write a Prishtamatra. In the case of T, we write this wavy line.
But then is this particular only to this script, or the entire family of Newari?
Well, this is a convention in this kind of script. Sometimes they write it both ways. It's not entirely consistent. It depends on the scribe.
Okay. Yeah.
Generally, in Newari, the 7 or 8 letters which have Prishtamatra. I mean, before the letter,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Visheshantara.
Vyotakaha.
Okay. Okay. So is it or no? Kriyarthat. Why pro? Pra. Yeah. Prak, kpr. Yeah. Prak, prayujya. Nte. Yeah. Prayujyante. Danda. You mean? Yeah. You see, this here is the k. This is the k, and this here is the p. Yeah. Inside the k, the k is transacting the p. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, now this is the end of the second line. You see, this is also the second line in my transcript, and we go to the third line. Is anybody else going to read? Anyone? Yeah, Pranali? Yeah. This is J. The J, the element of the J. This line belongs to the J. T. Here on the top, it is a wavy line. If it were just one curved line, it would have been T. But we have a curved line, so this is T. You need about 15 minutes to 30 minutes to get used to these peculiarities in this script, and then you won't be confused. Okay, now we have the third line. You see there is some decoration, some marking. You see something similar here. You see that if you don't have the A, if it is only a, it is you see here the the main line, and then it goes this way, and then whoops, one curved line, and that's it. This is a, so to say, without vowel, a different vowel than a. If it is a, then
That will be, this curve will be the very short. Sometimes we will see like Jante, here it seems like curve, but it is a little longer. It is short one. And another was here. Here, Jyota. The see, this is short curved lines, wavy lines.
In paint or something.
What is that? Very good.
So if you have na,
then this is na. If you have ne,
yeah.
oh. In the case of na, they don't stop, they just proceed like this. They can also start from there, it doesn't matter. But if it is ne,
Okay.
then you get the curved line this way.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so next line. Now you see here we have number 1. This is actually the folio number. In my transcript, and this is the versus side. So this is 1B or 1V, depending how you transcribe this and how you write it. So I have in my transcript folio 1B. So this one, I don't need now to write it somewhere here. I'm not trying to replicate exactly what we have on the leaf. You may have such a project, but that's not useful for my purposes. For my purposes, I need the text, and as you can see, we also break the text. I'm not writing Om Namah Sarvajñāya without spaces. I actually do write spaces. You'll see it later also. Yeah, like here at the end, where we had Prag, Prayujyante, I'm adding spaces, although they are not in the manuscript. You don't have such spaces here. But there is no use of not indicating the spaces. Actually, I would like to make it easier for me and for the readers afterwards. So we will introduce, of course, spaces according to our understanding of the text. And you run the risk, of course, that you may not spot places where you have to introduce breaks, spaces, but that's your obligation. And if you don't spot such places, then, and if you publish the text in Roman script, then this is a mistake, and then you'll get a bad review, perhaps.
But was there any practice of not giving these spaces in diplomatic transcript or edition? Or
Well, I cannot.
usually it is represented.
I wouldn't be surprised if you find some such diplomatic transcripts without spaces, but I don't see the point of it.
Yeah. No, this is just out of curiosity,
Yeah.
and I think there are some editions of Purana, I think from Anand Ashram, where we do not see any spaces,
Well,
and they are just printed continuously like a manuscript, and it's really difficult to understand that text then.
It's easy not to indicate spaces, because then you don't
Yeah,
need
but
to
then
think.
You don't have the responsibility of.
Yeah.
You want to speak something?
Okay.
So we can analyze it.
I try to identify. U, De, Rina.
Davona.
U, De,
No.
double Rina.
Yeah.
Bru. Bru, She.
Well, I know that this is a Marathi pronunciation. Bri. 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 I don't see any ukara here. I see bri. No. It's a joke, but it's now important. If I write now what she pronounces, I will write ukara. But this is not ukara, what we have here. It is ri. Yeah, so it's bri. Yeah, I know that for Marathi people it's very, very difficult to pronounce this. Yeah, we have krushnai water. Krushnai water. Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, yeah. But now if we transcribe this, we don't have krushnai, we have krishnai. So we have here. I mean, but you know, it's important because now, misled by your pronunciation of your mother tongue, you may write here bru indeed in the transcript with the ukara, and then this is a mistake. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, so we have here bri, shay. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, we'll proceed, but did you notice something else here? I mean, these tiny strokes. Okay, and you see that I also indicated them. You see? Well, it's a kind of segmentation. Because they don't leave spaces, so you can interpret this as a kind of analysis of the compound, because it's otherwise a very long compound. And in order to facilitate reading, to read properly the text, the scribe has, or actually he was certainly a learned guy. He knew what he's writing, so he was some pandit, I guess. So he indicated the separate words, the breaks.
No, I think Pranali
within the
also
compound.
has these signs in her manuscript of the Virakushavadana from Cambridge, isn't it? She also had, and we were discussing that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the different techniques for different purposes. Sometimes they indicate how you can analyze the compound in different ways, in two different languages, for example, Prakrit and Sanskrit, in Shlesha Bhasha. Yeah, exactly. So here it's just to indicate where the next word within the compound starts. Here, this is the ri. This here is the b. And below the b, on the right side, we have the ri attached to it. Okay, brishai, this tiny stroke. Shva. You see now the year, a nice year is something like we have here yo. You see the year is like this, but that's not exactly the same. This is r actually, and afterwards we have here. You know in modern Nepali when you write the arya, and I think in Marathi also, yeah, you write only this stroke, yeah. So that's the same procedure. Actually, it's quite an old convention.
No, but in Marathi, I think it goes above the shiro.
Okay, in Nepali it's only one chandra.
No, in Marathi it's not a chandra, but then it would be like Devanagari.
That is paper and the dash.
So, and I think in Nevari that would be the different, because you start with the shiro resha and you go down.
Yeah, that is there. One ra is there in Marathi also, but that is dusrya. We say ra. So rya. So that is ra.
No. This we use in Marathi also.
Hindi is the same like in Marathi with repa. In any case, we have here ra and ya, and you should be careful to differentiate between the two. So this is rya, shva rya.
Niyoga.
We had here bri.
No.
1 second. You see here the sharp angle. Tak. This is the bh with ri. You don't have this here. Yeah. So Trupti is in the Department of Pali. We have here Tripti. Yeah. Tripti. Okay. And now you see, we don't have this stroke here, so I, of course, don't indicate. We have a binding hole, so I indicate the binding hole here in this way. Now, it's very simple, but of course, we don't have two binding holes. I just indicate that, again, we have this same area of the binding hole. Yeah? So it's not one-to-one, as you can see. The purpose is just to indicate that there we have, again, the binding hole. So don't take it literally. I'm not producing a digital photocopy in Roman script. I'm presenting a diplomatic analytical transcript. Okay.
Shuddhi cha.
Cha.
Shuddhi cha.
Cha. Yeah. Dirga.
Shuddhi cha shakti. Shakti shanti. Puja. Pujascha.
Well, if you had sh, you would need one more stroke, one more curved line here. You see that this is sh. This is not sh. This is g. Yeah.
Darshaneshu.
Yeah. Okay.
Darshaneshu.
Yes. Double danda. Okay. Now, oops.
Pratyaya.
Okay. Is there a some? So what? Okay. So. So. No. So what? We have pra and kakapada. Yeah. Two kakapadas. So what? One second. One moment. Now we have. You see immediately here we have the kakapadas.
Yes.
Okay. Now you have to. It's obviously some insertion. Yeah. Usually we have the kakapadas for indicating an insertion. Now the question is, where is the insertion? Over there. How can you verify that it is an insertion to be? I mean, an akshara which has to be added exactly here. How do you know this? What's this? Okay. What's this? What's this? Aha, line number 3. So this akshara which is before the number 3 should be inserted in line number 3 at the place where we have the kakapadas. Okay, now the question emerges how we're going to present this in the transcript. And I have my convention for insertions by first hand, by the scribe, or even by second hand, but not by a modern hand, not by the editor. I indicate the insertion within these angular brackets, double, because it's, so to say, a secondary insertion. And then I just put it here.
In some editions, these angular brackets are used to drop also. To drop the letter also they are used.
There are various conventions, and you can use brackets for various purposes. And that's why you usually have in the book a table of symbols, and there you have to have a look in what meaning, what's the purpose of this particular symbol. And now if you have a look at my edition, you see that this is an insertion by first or second hand. I mean by the scribe himself or by his corrector. Yeah. So this, I don't indicate now E number 3 somewhere. I just insert it where I need it, where the insertion is. No, it's short. Hrasva. The dirga is quite clear. It's a different character written. Perhaps we'll have somewhere. But this is definitely hrasva.
Yeah, I just have one question. Isn't there any unanimity among scholars which symbols should be used for which purpose?
No.
Or no?
No.
Everyone has his own.
No, there is no unanimity. It's impossible to have one. But there are good procedures and bad procedures. So you have to find some good additions and to try to follow them. And if necessary, you can introduce something from your own. But there is no one canon. Nahi hai.
No, even for Indologists or.
No.
Okay.
No. Well, you cannot have. If you have dictatorship, and I'll tell you, you have to do it this way. Yeah?
Yeah,
It's impossible.
But generally,
Naturally.
sorry.
Well, it's a matter of reasoning, and it's a matter of good procedures. In a particular school of Indology, you may have good procedures, and people may have a good practice. In another one, they don't care at all, so they don't have anything.
Yeah.
In a third one, you have some bad techniques. You can have everything, but you cannot have one single which the dictator has told you have to do it this way. I'm not telling you to do it the same way, not at all. I'm just showing you one possible way.
So when I entered in this textual editing, so I heard a line, Mahajano yenagata sapantha. So earlier, whatever is used, so the same convention if we use, then it will be easier to understand all of us. But it depends on...
Yeah.
Many times this word.
Yeah.
But I think then for every scholar, a Mahajana would be a different scholars. So then.
But you cannot just follow. You have to think before following. No, that's not true. Don't tell me these stories. This is not true. There are Indian people who think and they follow and they change, and there are other people, who, not only Indian but also other everywhere, who do not think and just follow. It's a common human problem. Of course, I know there's some tendencies. It's some kind of a matter of a tradition, but we're here exposed to everything, so I don't think that you have to follow. You have to decide which one you would prefer to follow and which one you would discard and which one you would change. So, as I said, it is just one example, one possible solution. If you like it, follow it. I don't object. Okay, so we have pra and then I. Yeah, pra iti. Itya.
Ya mo pa sarga double ga eteshwartheshu
Okay, good. Now you say this. Okay, can you read now this one too?
Cha? That is A.
So, Udi. R. Yeah. Yeah.
Below.
So we have Repha, we have Prishta Matra. So na, okay. Half na. Below, no. So double na. Okay, so Udirne. Okay, so if this is Udirne, what's this? You write here Varnate. Yeah?
Sorry, sir. Vartate.
So it cannot be the same. It's definitely T. Vartate, double danda, Udirne. Okay, now Our colleague asked about V and B. In my transcript, actually, I have introduced B. So what I told you earlier about B and V, I didn't follow this procedure here. I immediately analyzed and I differentiated. So you may say in this regard, my diplomatic transcript is not diplomatic enough. I wasn't so precise in this way. But, you know, because it doesn't serve my purposes. It depends on your purposes. If you just want to have a copy of the text, then you have to write provolo. But it doesn't suit my purposes, because I was basically editing the text, and I thought in this case I will analyze the word, especially provolo. It has a completely different meaning, and parabola is something else. And we need here parabola. So in this case, I was more liberal in a way, and I interpreted the V akshara as B, knowing, of course, that they simply do not differentiate in this script.
But then would you mention this in the introduction, that you have standardized the use of V and B according to the context, or?
Well, I think I didn't even mention this, because I have assumed anyone who is working with Nepali manuscripts, they know that they do not differentiate. And actually, there are very few Indian scripts, especially older Indian scripts, in which they differentiate B and V. I mean, can you tell me some examples of an Indian script in which you differentiate B and V? Not modern ones, I mean older ones.
No, older
types. Yeah. I mean, in the North Indian sphere, I just know the Saindavi, in which they have really two completely different aksharas for B and V. In most other scripts, as far as I know, there is no differentiation. Only one single akshara is used for this. So it's a matter of a convention. If you decide, of course, you can introduce it, you can write it in this way. If you want to be extremely precise, you always write one akshara, which will be rather V, which is more common. We have more words with V as with B. So I won't write pravalo here. I wrote here pravalo. Okay, and then Raja Dabodanda. And then next line. Okay, I think that's enough for this, just to get an impression. Vimshati upasarga vritti. So. No. It is double na. The second na is written vertically.
Yes, sir. Upasarga vritti hai na.
What's the number on the right?
Well, this is a secondary number, which, because the manuscript was kept together with one more manuscript, so it's a multiple text manuscript, we say. And then there were two grammatical texts, and the scholar who has had this set has foliated the manuscripts, the two manuscripts. It is probably the same hand. Actually, the two manuscripts which were written within a week. Ushma Bheda is the second text, and most likely the same scribe first wrote the manuscript and paginated it on the left hand side, and then he paginated the full set on the right hand side. Because fortunately we have colophons in the two manuscripts, and it is absolutely clear it's the same material, it's the same hand, and the dates are just 2 days within a week. So and the manuscript, the first manuscript contains, I think, 4 or 6 folios, something like this. So it's quite clear that it's manageable to write this within a week. No, this is just the running number in the set. So it's 14, I think, in that case.
पहिली जी नाही इथे नाही तिथे नाही इथेच
Could you please show us some other conventions which are used in this diplomatic edition?
Yeah.
From the manuscript and the diplomatic edition. Manuscript, that's why I'm... Yeah, okay.
These are here my symbols. You see danda, double danda. We have an emission of text of a length which we cannot determine, of undetermined length. Then we have smaller angular brackets in which I have inserted particular numbers. We have here an insertion by first or second hand. Then we have deletion by first or second hand. Then we have meaningful insertions by me. Okay. Then we have a break in. So if you have the leaf broken on one side, then I indicate this broken part with these 3 slashes. Then we have a root symbol and this tiny symbol where we have the separation of the words within a compound. Then we have the binding hole and some few other symbols. When you have a dhatu, it's a grammatical text, so we have some roots, and then I use this symbol. When one complete aksara is illegible, so it is in the manuscript, but it is illegible, then we can write 2 dots. When only one part of the aksara is not legible, then I write 1 dot. You have to see this in the edition, otherwise it's not that clear. But it's important just to consult different editions and then to see how people have proceeded. And you have to see the example. Without udaharana, it doesn't work. Yeah. And this book is available in Pune, so and there's many other much better books which you can consult and see how people have proceeded. You certainly don't need to rediscover the world in this respect. This is something which is quite common. So.
Okay, now we proceed to the next part. So this is a manuscript of a text called Vruttamala Stuti Vivruti, a commentary on Jnanashri Mitra's text Vruttamala Stuti. And I think in your handout you have a diplomatic transcript, the first stage. So this text is a text on Sanskrit metrics, and Professor Han from Philipps University Marburg, he worked on this text for his PhD. He edited the Tibetan text. At that time, Sanskrit original was not available to him, so he edited the Tibetan text and prepared its German translation and Mongolian translation and glossaries. So that was his PhD thesis, which was published in 1971. Then in 1976, he discovered a manuscript of the commentary. Next year, he discovered the published text of the original Vrittamala Stuti. I think the manuscript is not available, it's lost. So only what he found was an edition of the Vrittamala Stuti prepared by Yogi Narhari Nath, and it's published from Varanasi in 1955-1956. So it's usually we start with Sanskrit text, original text, commentary and Tibetan translation. In this case it was exactly opposite. Tibetan translation was edited and translated first, then Sanskrit commentary was discovered, and then 1 year later Sanskrit text was discovered. And then on the basis of this, Professor Hahn published his edition of the Sanskrit text of the Vrittamala Stuti with its German translation in 2008. And then in 2013 and 2014, he published what he used to call, I think, a semi-critical edition of the commentary, Vrittamala Stuti Vivruti, from Japan, South Asian Classical Studies, SSCS. So in 2 years, in 2013 and 2014. And then he wanted to prepare a Devanagari edition of both the texts, and to include also Tibetan translation and an English translation of the Sanskrit text, which he could not manage to finish. And then he asked myself, then Mahesh and Professor Bahulkar to revise the text and publish an Indian edition. Of course, we worked with him till 2014 when he passed away, and many of our suggestions or all these things were included in his draft. But then we took over the work again in 2014, and last year we published the revised critical edition of both the texts, the Sanskrit text of the Vrittamala Stuti and its commentary. The Tibetan translation and English, edition of the Tibetan translation and English translation of the Mula text is still a desideratum, and maybe in near future or after some years we might be able to publish this part as well. So that was the history of this thing. And he has, Professor Hahn had already given symbols which he used in his edition, and I think you have all of them in the handout. Could you find them? So indistinct characters are placed within parentheses and angular brackets, which is not available in the manuscript. But I think this angular brackets he used for both the purposes, which only for which is supplied, not missing in the text, but not because of the damaged folio. It was missing somehow by the Scrabble error. And then text to be deleted and all text added in the margin. So I think these conventions are different than the ones you used in your diplomatic transcript. So in the first, on the first page you find a diplomatic transcript. And as I told you, Professor Hahn did not, what he published was a diplomatic edition, but he also made some corrections or standardization, like the use of viramas, dandas, he made it quite consistent in his edition. And so it's not a diplomatic transcript, it's somewhere between a diplomatic transcript and a semi-critical edition. So here in the handout, what I tried to do, not as what Dragomir did, but I couldn't place everything within one line, but still, and the missing aksharas, if we, almost all the folios on the right hand side, the folios are damaged, and up to 6 aksharas are lost. So what Professor Hahn did, in certain cases we could suggest our conjectures, okay, but in the very first line, Vrittamma is visible, and here no conjecture could be suggested. In such cases, he used this backslash. Okay, that's what he used. But on the next line, Prastavanam Aha, and then Vru. I think he could suggest something so that you would. Yeah, but yeah, in his edition he used backslash. But yes, I mean yesterday I converted his edition back to diplomatic transcript first, and so now it is consistent. What I presented, I think it is consistent. Raghu might find something missing in my transcript. But yeah, Han in his edition had used backslash because we couldn't suggest anything there. And then for Vru and everything, some letters are missing, and these are shown here within angular brackets. So 2 dots representing 1 syllable. I think otherwise the manuscript, at least this part is quite clear and there are no mistakes. I think. Are there any doubts? Is anyone comparing this with the manuscript? Maybe 1 or 2 lines we can do that and then go ahead. Who else can read? Bengali. Yeah.
Namo Manjushriye.
Yeah.
Jnana Shri Prabhava Uttamala Miva.
Yeah. Uttamala Miva. Yeah.
Yam Dikhe.
Yeah.
Jnana Shri Prabhava. Jnana Shri Prabhava Uttamala. Vayamupas Mahe.
Yes. Yes. Upas Mahe. Yeah. Ihaya.
Prakarsha.
Yeah.
Parina.
Yeah.
Guna. Gana. Guna Gana Jnana. Jnana Shri.
Yeah.
Jnana Shri.
No, there.
Ni.
It should be double to.
Cho.
Mitro. Tata. Yeah. Vrittama.
The lid is also right. You see that? Partly legible.
Partly legible.
All right, like construction.
Yeah, just a minute.
Okay, can you scroll back to
that line?
Now, I think that there shouldn't be any doubt that the akshara which is partly visible at the end where the leaf is broken is la, ma, la.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you, that would be a conjecture, or are you?
Well, this will be a conjecture. Yeah, it will be partly. I'll print it perhaps with special brackets for reconstructions in a diplomatic transcript. But it's important to note that we do have one part of the Akshara, which is most likely low. If you compare with Mala before this, it is the same kind of typical Bengali single la. So I wouldn't doubt it. If you're too energetic, you can even try to reconstruct the following Akshara, of which you see down there something. There are not that many Aksharas which have this element at the bottom.
I think 4 Aksharas are missing, including la.
It should be some ligature because we have too much space after the la, and we don't have a dirgha matra, so we can suspect that we have a ligature, a conjunct, which has perhaps some part which is on the left side in the upper left part. Yeah.
I think what Professor Han had suggested was Vrutta Malaya Bhagavantam. I mean Bhagava and Tam is on the next line. That's what he had proposed in his edition. And yeah, we did not have any clue, and I mean we did not suggest anything in our critical edition of the text. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now, this is important. When we have such a break, there may be different conventions how to indicate that the leaf is broken. Now, the usual convention, at least in the West, is to write backslashes, 3 backslashes. And then there is also the additional convention, those who are more precise, to indicate afterwards, after these 3 slashes, a number which may indicate how many syllables we're missing there, if you can estimate. Sometimes it's easy to estimate approximately how many aksharas. And this is important information, so it's useful. In this case now, in your printout, you see the 2 dots which indicate one single akshara. So from this transcript, I can get that the editor has thought that we are missing there 5 aksharas in this broken passage. Well, you can, if you have at least 1 folio full length, then you see how long it is.
No, but we have even this.
It's possible to estimate. In the case of this manuscript, it's possible to estimate because we have also metrical text, and you can see exactly how much you're missing.
So in this particular case, it's really possible. Only I think there are few cases where Professor Han had noted in the footnote that an uncertain number of aksharas are missing. Only at a few places, but most of the times he could guess how many aksharas are missing.
And yeah, because basically, as he said, that if we know one line and how many aksharas are there in one line, then that is quite easy.
Yes.
And if you have a verse text, then you can estimate how many aksharas are missing in the metrical text, and then you can indicate this.
It doesn't help in this particular case. Yeah. Oh. And the commentary is not available in Tibetan, so no case. But so Vrutta Malaya Bhagava and Ta, so that was Professor Han's guess. Yeah. Yeah. Line number 2.
Second type sign actually scribal error करता है. ही sign आहे म्हणजे physical damage करता पण इथे physical damages आहे. तुम्हाला
double dot.
Bracket is different.
You see the
not available because of scribal error. This is physical damage.
Yeah, this is physical damage.
Physical damage this sign.
Which one? Second one, angular brackets. Yeah, this is angular brackets is physical damage. But here it is, angular bracket shows that the text has been lost. So shall we read one more line, or we can go to this? Anyone else from Calcutta reading the second line? You can. Yeah, little bit loud. Here. Here. Tushtu. Retroflex and turn with an ukara. Tushtushur. Yeah. It's the same character we have in Tushtu. So sure you can still see that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Bhedanapi. Yeah. Yeah. What is that? Maha. Danda and Mru. And then, yeah, two aksharas are missing. Vrutta. It is aha. Aha, prastavanam aha. So now we can go to this diplomatic edition which Han published for these two lines. So in diplomatic edition what he did is Om Namo Manjushriye, and then the verse is printed as a verse. Jnanashri Prabhavam Vruttamalam. Okay. And then this Vruttamala, I mean the first line, the right side, yeah, that's missing. Since he could not suggest any conjecture there, that he showed by this backslash. Okay, but you will find a footnote there. 4 to 5 aksharas are broken off. Read Vruttamalaya Bhagavantam.
Is it there? The addition is there.
Yeah, not right now with me. I mean the printed one I don't. But you have it. Yeah. Yeah. And at the end of the second line, after Prastavanam Aha, he suggested that Vruttam Ityadi, because that's the beginning of the first verse. Vruttam. Sorry? No, that I think that's the next line. You are reading this third line, end of third line. I'm talking about the second line. So now Shakya Rakshita is commenting upon the first verse, Vruttam Samam. So the conjecture could be Vruttam Ityadi. And then that mi is placed within angular brackets to show that this is missing in the original manuscript. And this is editor's conjecture.
And it's actually 100% certain that we have Vritam, t, double T, and me. So you can see that there, in the broken area, we are missing only 2 aksharas.
Yeah.
This is pretty certain. So, and then you can estimate how many are missing on the line above it. And you can see, we suggested la, which is also pretty sure.
Yeah.
The next one could be ya, with something else. And afterwards, we're missing 3 more on above vri in the second line. So we have 1, and the 2 more which we're missing, t and me. So we have 3 aksharas there, and 2 which are partly visible in the first line. So we have all in all 5. It's very easy, and this is now certain. In this way, we can reconstruct how many aksharas we're missing in the next lines too.
Yeah. So longest available line can guide us somehow. How many aksharas are missing, and then in his diplomatic or semi-critical edition, what he did, he also provided the verse. Okay. And then at the end of third line, ardha samam and backslash and then ta krodha rupam. So what he suggested was read shamita question mark, shami being in angular brackets. So shamita krodha rupam. Ardha samam shamita krodha rupam. That's what he has suggested. Okay. And now so ardha samam. Sure, there. After ardha samam. No. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the third line, after ardha samam, we do not see sh. It's definitely not sh. Now let me see what we had proposed. So if you see the Devanagari transcript, we have left it again. We have indicated this gap, but 4 dots indicating 2 syllables missing, and then read shamita, but we are not sure because we cannot see sh there after ardha samam. Sorry?
Well, as far as I can see, that it's impossible to have sh, because if you have sh, you see where we have on the same line before rupa, shanta rupa. Yeah, you see that the sh does not have a vertical line, and this actually, which is partly broken, seems to have a vertical line. So this excludes, in my view, the possibility of shamita. So it should be something else. Ma is in my view, also not possible. If
It's also not possible.
V. V is possible. Yeah.
Yeah, V is possible, yeah.
Ardha samam.
Yeah, ardha samam.
Yeah,
But ardha samam, if we have vru, then again in the next line I think we have the.
I would guess that we have some conjunct again. You don't have any trace of the vertical part of V, so this excludes the possibility of a single V. If it is V, which is possible because of the curved line of the akshara, it may be V, but then with something else afterwards, with another consonant afterwards, Vya or something like this. I mean. But I think
we didn't
it's impossible to suggest. Yeah.
But maybe in the revised edition again, what we can do is, right now we have only these dots. We can replace them by backslash because we cannot suggest anything. That is possible.
We can ask for the reasons to suggest.
I think we miss actually 3 aksharas there, including the one which is partly visible.
Okay. So right now we have only. We thought
Because
that only 2 letters are
you have on the top line, on the second line, you have Ritta me.
Yeah.
And the mo is pretty wide. So if you have below this the same length of text, then it will be the akshara, and perhaps two tiny akshara or something like this. I mean, two to three. I don't think that you can specify exactly.
Then maybe Vyupa Shanta,
Yeah.
that could be possibility.
Or that two with a ligature.
Vyupa Sha, and then Nta Krodha Rupa. But I mean, we can see that after so many years of working on the same text, there are possibilities of suggesting something new, or like the first line where we cannot suggest anything. Okay. Yeah. So just before we conclude for this session, you have all, I mean, before this critical edition, you can see what changes we made in our presentation of the text, and it's in the Devanagari as Professor Han had wished, and then at the suggestions of our colleagues from Marburg, including Dragomir and others, we tried to exclude all the brackets from the main text. So it's a clean text, and whatever our conjectures or emendations are, that you can see in the footnotes. And you can also see what Professor Han had in his edition and what we presented, and then we presented a positive apparatus to make the text as clear as possible and to present it as clearly as possible. Okay, so with this I thank you, all of you, and
okay. Thank you, Professor Devkar. Thanks a lot. We extend our heartfelt gratitude towards you. And with this session is over. We will be back here after an hour. Thank you.